It's time for another independent creator review, and this time we're going to be doing a bundle that is basically the Orcs Strong Together bundle. It's available on Pathfinder Infinite for $15. The actual Orcs Strong Together book, the new Orcs on the Block adventure, and the map supplement are all available separately. However, I would really recommend kind of getting the bundle. They all tie together. If you were just going to pick and choose something, I would say get Orc Strong Together in order to put some orc goodness into whatever campaign you're running. But all that being said, my name is Don. I'm trying to be the Sly Strategist, and let's go ahead and get into it. So the Orcs Strong Together bundle includes 3 books. Orc Strong Together, which is a supplement that brings new classes, new archetypes, and they're themed on drakes, new equipment, and new creatures to your campaigns, all based around an orc theme. There is a companion adventure called New Orcs on the Block that'll take a party from level 3. And the last block starts on level 11, so probably level 13, and maybe a little bit beyond. That is a perfect jumping off point for any adventure that takes place on the Isle of Kortos. So if you're in the neighborhood of Absalom, just a little bit south, maybe in Otari, or close by in the Inner Sea, it's a really easy adventure to kind of slot in if you want some orc goodness in your campaign. It also includes a full player's guide that provides all the necessary backgrounds, as well as a full gazetteer and the city and all the important locations. There is also a map pack for Foundry, and if you want to play at a table, for playing at a table. But one thing I do want to point out is all of these include really excellent Foundry integration, and we're actually going to cover that and show you just how easy it is to bring this into Foundry. But before we get into the nitty-gritty of the review, let's talk a little bit about this project. So Orcs Strong Together is not a randomly chosen name. There is a much more eloquent explanation of the inspiration for this project on the 3rd page of the introduction, and I definitely think you should read it. But just a quick summary: Orcs Strong Together and New Orcs on the Block was inspired by WOT attempting to deauthorize the existing OGL 1.0A. So Paizo, along with a bunch of other companies, knew that this would not only affect their games, but third-party publishing to include Pathfinder and Starfinder Infinite. So if you remember, back in January, there was just a bunch of silence from Wizards of the Coast, and these companies banded together and announced the Open RPG Creative License, also known as the ORC, as a totally open license owned by not a single publisher, but by a separate entity that would ensure that it could be used in perpetuity. So this module was created in celebration of this ORC license. The license was not yet finalized, but it is a celebration of the accomplishment. Now, Helen Savore is the project lead. The writers are Arkon, Avery, Chris Handforth, John Holmes, Kana Kuroko, Sasha, Laranoa Harving, and W. Brian Lane. And the artists are Connor Berkheiser and MicahDraws. Let's move on into the review. So as always, I'm not going to go into the specific details, as I do believe that you should buy the product, but I will say that I'm only going to present things on this channel that I would buy and use in my campaigns. And one of the things I do get asked is if I play tested this, and I can say yes, I did. Both Orcs Strong Together and Block 1 of New Orcs on the Block were play tested. And a bit of a spoiler here, it was one of the easiest third-party products that I've ever used and was absolutely a blast. The Foundry integration is fantastic, and it comes in both flavors, so you can get it for Foundry 10 or 11, depending on kind of where you stand on how you have upgraded your Foundry installation to this point. I did test on the Foundry 10 version, but I assume it's going to be the same with 11. Now, I did mention that we did Block 1 of New Orcs on the Block, and there'll be more on the blocks when we get to the companion adventure. However, I did have a small group playtest this, with one being a champion option, one being a sorcerer option, and one character with an archetype from Orcs Strong Together. Orcs Strong Together is a 26-page supplement that includes class options for lawful champions, regardless of where that champion might be on the good or evil spectrum. Now, this might change with the remaster. However, the same rules to convert this to the remaster are the same ones that you're going to be doing for champions throughout all the campaigns, so it should be a pretty easy move over, as well as more class options for Gunslinger, Oracle, Sorcerer, and Summoner with new reactions, level gains, feats, spells, and focus spells. And I'm just pointing that out with the changes to focus spells in the remaster. There is also a new archetype tree of a Drake Rearer and a Drake Rider, themed off of what I think is the Beastmaster archetype, but with a focus on Drakes. It really expands the utility, and there are 5 new Drake themed companions. It's a very exciting archetype to play, especially at lower levels. New equipment to include grimoires, a special medal, and a weapon forged from it, tattoos, weapons, worn items. I wish I could go into more detail, especially on the medal, but I'll leave that to the purchaser. Nothing overpowered, but all the items and equipment really get you into the theme of the supplement, really bring forth a lot of orc flavor, and it really makes this not just an adventure with orcs, but an orc adventure, if you understand what I mean. Very well done. There are new creatures available as well. Now, these ones are placed pretty high level, and you probably won't or shouldn't see these in the new Orcs on the Block adventure, but they could be very useful for bosses or for keeping the theme in your own created adventures, or maybe to reflavor existing encounters in the current adventures that you're playing. I'm really impressed with the balance and utility of these additions. And like I said before, it really changes an adventure with orcs to an orc adventure. And I fully suggest that you start this off with a party of orcs or maybe orc aligned characters, but it's really going to bring a lot to the adventure when you do play this with orcs. Now, let's move on to New Orcs on the Block. Now, New Orcs on the Block is the adventure that is a companion to Orcs Strong Together. So the basics of the story are available in the free player's guide, and it's available on Pathfinder Infinite, but I'm going to include just a brief summary here. So this is a 5-part adventure. It takes place in Axide, a neighborhood outside the wall of the lumber capital of Maravon, where the orcs who forged contracts with a lumber company that is outside of the larger Kortos consortium. Axide is hoping to become a special district of Maravon instead of just a loose collection of houses that is just kind of outside the city walls, and this is on the docket. There are multiple conflicts in the story. The prejudice against orcs and allowing them into greater society as opposed to just making them be cheap labor. Will the consortium be outmaneuvered by the industrialists? There's also changes that are occurring in the forests outside of the city. All of these things are happening at once, and are these all connected? In this adventure, you can influence how Axide not only grows and changes, but you can do all of this through your actions and deeds. And one of the most interesting subsystems introduced was the election cycle subsystem. Now, I am a subsystems type guy. I do love them. I think that used, sprinkled in certain adventures, they can bring a change to just the thwack thing with a sword type pattern that you get into if you're just doing like a dungeon crawl. But this election cycle subsystem is basically based off the victory point subsystem, like most of these are. You have full activities that can affect the subsystem with conditions, and a nice explanation of the 13 candidates that support Axide becoming a special district, as well as benefits from the 2 that you choose to assist. I definitely had my favorite, and you meet that one in block 1. So as mentioned previously, the adventure is broken into 5 blocks of story. They take place at 3rd, 5th, 7th, 9th, and 11th levels. Now, the structure sidebar recommends that you can enter into the adventure at even levels, and then you would just use the weak or elite template on the creatures. And that is exactly what my group did. We basically just took characters from the beginner box, changed them into orcs, and reflavored them, redid feats and ancestries and all those kind of things. And then we started them in block 1 using the weak template, and it really only needed to be done for a few sessions until it just wasn't necessary anymore. So the adventure includes 8 backgrounds tailored to this adventure, and they really do prove useful for the setting. My favorite was the realtor, just because I just thought the fact of being an orc realtor would just be a fantastic thing. And it was great. So in the player's guide and the GM module, there is a full gazetteer that is included with the city map, information on the elections and the candidates, but the player guide does not give you the council benefits that you would get by supporting certain candidates. And that is part of the subsystem, is what benefits you would get. In the GM guide, each block gets full support if you are playing at a virtual table, and really excellent support if you are playing at a table. There is so much that is there for you. And as mentioned previously, the Foundry support is push button easy. And I haven't seen it done better. And once you push that button, everything is just stepped out for you easy. You can be ready for player creation in literal minutes. So let's go ahead and take a quick look at that. So once again, all you need to make sure is that you import the module and go ahead and make sure you select it. Save your module settings. It's going to reload. And then when it's done reloading, you're going to have this little box that says commercial content activated. Go ahead and click introduction. And it's all right here. You need to download the maps. Guess what? You click this button and import the adventure. You want to import block 1. Click on it, scroll down, import adventure. It's going to tell you what it's going to import. 3 actors, 2 journal entries, 2 scenes, 3 folders. You hit import adventure and it's imported. You want to move on to block 2, and you can do this in segments. It'll tell you exactly what it's going to import, and you click it again. It'll bring the maps in, it'll bring your tokens, it'll bring in the compendiums. It really doesn't get much easier than this. Now, as you can guess, I loved this bundle. I love the supplement. I love what it brought to classes. The players really enjoyed the flavor, and the adventure that we've played so far was fantastic, unique, and man, I am a sucker for a good subsystem, and this one has it. Was there anything that I didn't like in this particular bundle? That's a tough call. The honest answer is no. I can say some things that might be, I won't necessarily say improvements, but things that you'll have to keep an eye on. Once again, with the remaster coming out, especially to the changes to the champion class, you're going to have to take a look at alignment. Aside from that, I have nothing else. This is, especially if you are looking for a side adventure or you're looking for a unique adventure that is themed around orcs, and maybe you want to do something different for a few months and create an orc party and just go to town on it, there's nothing better. This is it. This is what you need. If you weren't thinking about doing that, I'm going to tell you should reconsider and think about doing an orc party, because it's a lot of fun. If it's not something that you could necessarily think that you could fit in, well, this isn't that far from Otari. This isn't that far from Absalon. If you wanted to move just a little side adventure and just do a block or 2, there are instructions to do that, as well as how you would adjust the election sub-cycle depending on where you popped in and popped out. So it's something that you could definitely do, but my recommendation would be really consider doing a little orc side campaign and just have some fun with it. So I hoped you enjoyed this independent creator review. Orcs Strong Together, especially the bundle, I fully recommend that you get it. Once again, there are those little conditions where it is a full campaign, it is fully orc, so that is something that you need to consider and make sure that everybody wants to play, but man, it's a lot of fun. I do hope you liked this video, and if you did, feel free to like, subscribe, or hit that notification bell. But whatever you do, I hope you have a great day and happy adventuring. Thanks.